Welcome back to a busy pit lane at a frantic Rolex 24 Daytona. Looking at the car that when you left us was battling for second place. A couple of laps ago, Nick Johnson had an off. There's debris on the track and full course caution now in force for third lap as we have almost a full pit call from everybody. There is the car that was in the lead in this stint. The 90 car came in from 7th place, and the Flying Lizards car, well, that lost plenty of time, went about 5 laps down in the prototype class, but is back, and it seems to be back at speed. So welcome back, everybody. Martin Haven and Mark Cole trying to sort out what has been a really frantic Rolex 24 first couple of hours. According to this team, not an easy one either. They have already had a full gearbox cluster change at their first stop, and looks like further checkups under the hood. So not everything running A-OK with Scott Pruitt's 01 car.
Yeah, just the 15 minutes been away from you. A lot of collisions on the track, most notably Christophe Bouchou had a very big off, did the whole front end in, and you just mentioned about the Krone car. That had a collision with Jimmy Johnson.
That went around the outside of the GT class BMW of Max Hyatt, 7th in GT, and just couldn't quite hold the car on the track, spun off, and then threw a bit of debris on the track.
The Spirit of Daytona car then got together with Jimmy Johnson. Those two spun at the bus stop, and the Spirit of Daytona car came off at worse on that. Jimmy Johnson, of course, 5 times NASCAR champion, trying to pull off the chance to be the 3rd man in history to win the Daytona 24 hours and 500.
Well, as you can see, lights are on, and it is getting pretty dark as you look out towards the west. And right in front of us is Max Hyatt's BMW, the 7th place car in GT, as it was at the time that was tagged, or wasn't quite tagged actually. Nick Johnson just going around the outside of him as they turned down left and then right into the bus stop, lost it on the right-hander, drifted off wide in the Lola. No damage done. He regained the course, but it is a full course caution. And actually, we'd seen the first of our DP cars making another set of pit stops, so the whole round has been in. Lead cars at the caution were the 2 Action Express cars, the ex-Brumos Racing prototypes, the Riley Porsches of David Donoghue in the lead in the 5 from the 9 car of Terry Borchella. So they were looking pretty pleased with themselves with those Riley Porsches. Christophe Bouchou shown as our race leader, with the damage on that car. I find that really hard to believe.
I think it might be a transponder problem there, but at the moment Justin Wilson would be appearing to lead from David Donoghue, Ryan Briscoe, and in GT it's Bill Oberlin in that amazing puce yellow Turner, or custard yellow Turner Motorsport BMW M3 from Richard Leeds, and from Dane Cameron at the wheel of one of the Dempsey Racing Mazda RX-8s.
Well, at the moment, the only Porsche looking like it's in the frame, certainly after a couple of hours, is Richard Leeds in 2nd place. We've got a BMW leading, Porsche 2nd, Mazda's 3rd and 4th, and the Paul Miller Porsche has just stopped, so TRG's number 54 car, Patrick Pilet, in the white car with the green stripes that your own Blake Molan started. That car is currently in 5th position, as you can see, shot a few moments ago. The sun not quite moving going down below the pits. We're, of course, taking our pictures from Speed, who are doing their own broadcast and appear to be waiting to come back from a break. Here we go.
They appear to have jumped across the whole of Florida, by the way, because that was the Gulf we're looking at the sun sinking into there, which is at least 100 miles from where this track is.
That's
it's
the
on
west coast.
The east coast. Yes. So there's a track blower going around blowing, getting something you often see in IndyCar racing, and trying to get the track blown of debris. It's not, no moisture on the track certainly, but all that debris for tonight.
Well, this is the Racers Group pits. Who is that in the TRG suit who's just stepped out of a car? Come on, let's go round there a little bit. No wise, I'm afraid I don't recognise him. And with 5 different sets of liveries for TRG, doesn't narrow it down a very great deal, I'm afraid.
So welcome to Florida. Look at that most beautiful sunset. Always this time of year, January. That's why people go to Florida, to Orlando in January, to get this beautiful weather. The temperature's only dipped about 65 degrees in old money at the moment, and here we are behind the safety car, the pace cars, sorry, I must call them pace cars in America. Again, that BMW Series 1 M Coupe. My goodness, I'd love to get my hand on one of those.
May as well call them safety cars in Europe, pace cars in Europe as well, because let's face it, the way they operate them in Le Mans Series racing, there's no safety involved in that, and certainly no fairness either. They have got to sort that out. Well, wherever you are in Florida, you can't be unaware that not only is the Rolex 24 on, but the Daytona 500 is soon on its way too. The motorsport season really does kick off. Well, first at Birmingham, obviously, but then actual racing on an outdoor track. Yeah, that's Daytona, well, and the Speedweek's coming.
I think Dubai might argue with that. They've already had the Dubai 24, haven't they? Claudia Hurtgen winning that. Great drive by her in the BMW.
Yeah, fair call. I'll see her Autosport and race you Dubai 24. First proper track race.
Well, let's hear from Justin Bell. You're in the race. Normally you'd be flying home on the plane by now if you get out, but this is a sports car race. You've got to get back in a couple of hours.
Well, you know, I want to thank Jimmy Johnson. I'm going to fly with him tomorrow and see my wife before I go dirt racing at East Bay on Wednesday. So I'm rooting Jimmy on in the DP car. Hopefully he'll finish, so I'll have a ride home back to Charlotte. But I just want to once again thank the Children's Tumor Foundation. You know, I'm sure I could do a lot better, but like my brother Rusty Wallace told me, he said, boy, those cats' names are Hans, Franz, and Wolf, and they're from Europe, and they're good. They're very good.
They are good. Even if you don't know who they are, they know what they're doing. Tell me, we have a little, we've been speculating the bus stop, you know, is causing cars some problems. Why is that? Is it the increased speed going in there, or is it dirt?
Well, the reason TRG and owner Kevin Buckler have won this GT class 3 or 4 times, I almost got sick of him telling me the bus stop is the Bermuda Triangle. So, I mean, I let off at the 2.5. I do my 2, 6, 5, 4, make my decision, am I good? And I think sometimes they're attacking too hard. I'm doing the same thing all the time. If I try to go any faster, then the payoff is I'm going to wreck. I just don't need to wreck. I'm trying to represent NASCAR. We haven't had very good luck down here in the past.
Well, we're looking forward to seeing you get back in the car. Get some rest. Chris, you're with the movie stars.
Kenny Wallace gives good interview. Chris Neville with Patrick Dempsey. Let's listen in.
Dance down to here. You look a little bit tired, and we're just at the start of this thing.
Yeah, it's unfortunate I had to do that red eye. That doesn't really help your stamina. And I think like 45 laps in the first stint. It's a little bit of a setback for us. I'm glad I didn't make any major mistakes. I just tried to find a pace where I wasn't going to make mistakes. Really kept an eye on traffic and tried to get a hold of a draft when I could. I could pick up a lot of time there. And just a tough way to start 24 hours. But, you know, it's been a wild weekend.
Hey, you guys did a lot of improvements during the offseason. You brought in Greg Cates, who's a longtime member of Ray Hall Letterman Racing. How has he changed the environment at Dempsey Racing?
Greg brings a great deal of stability to the team and allows us to grow and to move forward in other fields of racing if we want to, which is what we wanted. He just sort of gives us a blanket of calm over the entire team. Both teams are working much better now. Both of them worked really hard over the off-season, and Kurt did a phenomenal job putting the car together. The car handles great. And, you know, we're coming together, we're growing, and it's good to see that the 41 car is doing so well, you know, and I got to thank Mazda once again and all my other sponsors. And, you know, hopefully we have a good showing. It's very early on yet.
We'll go get some rest. And, Bob, I know these guys are going to be...
Well, Patrick Dempsey looking about as beat up as you want at the end of a 24-hour race, and the Rolex 24 is a long, tough one. He looks like he's had a really tough time in his own car, the 40 car of the 2 that the team are running here. And of course, Kenny Wallace, I was trying to recognise in Kevin Buckler's 4 car, making his GT racing debut here as well.
Of course, Patrick Dempsey, if you didn't pick it up earlier, he was at the Sundance Film Festival last night promoting his new film Flypaper, and he's had to fly back from California to come back to this race, hence the tardiness. Kenny Wallace, that was a great quote. I've in fact written it down on our track map now. The bus, Kevin told me the bus stop is the Bermuda Triangle.
I like the one about there. Who are all these guys? They're all called Hans, Jans and Franz, and they know what the hell they're doing in a Porsche. You follow those guys.
Great stuff.
Oh, now then, again, this is another TRG. This is another Racers Group car. Jerry Nadeau has part of the ownership of this team, who raced in single-seaters in Europe. Long-term memory, the GM Lotus Euro Series, he raced in that, and Jeremy Shaw's Team America, and raced in NASCAR as well. He's not racing the car, but he's running the car with Kevin Buckler, and that has just stopped him on the track. Incidentally, let's...
Under yellows.
A little bit of a catch-up as well. The 57 car of Robin Liddell, that Camaro, back out on track. Jan Magnussen back out on the track, but 25 laps behind the GT leader alone. Ouch, that hurts. They are all but last in GT class.
Yeah, this yellow is going to be extended now because Jim McCallian's pulled off in that 53 car, as you just said. Yet another of the TRG cars. Jim McCallian, a lot of you will know that name, promoter of Long Beach, of course, the Long Beach Grand Prix. And Jim is the oldest driver in the race, 68 years old. You want to know who the youngest is?
He's 19, isn't he?
He is 19 years old, and
yeah, in the stats deluge that is American racing, that has swapped straight by me.
Everywhere, isn't it? Yeah, we did actually see him early in the race, and here we are, the youngest driver, Cooper McNeil, 18 years and 4 months.
Years old, dear Lord.
Gosh, do you remember when we were 18?
Yeah, that could be my son in 6 months' time. Yeah. Don't get any ideas, Oscar. Daddy hasn't got the money.
No, but you can have his Morris Minor if they can ever find it.
No, not for Daytona.
Is it still at the university?
Yeah, it still hasn't moved. So Christophe Boucher is our racer in the 55, which means it was the 95 car, Ryan Hunter-Reay and Richard Westbrook's car that got wrecked. Remember I was saying Westbrook, after not getting a run in it in qualifying, must have been hoping that the thing was going to at least give him a run in the race. I think his big prototype break isn't happening.
The new tyres causing any problems?
Yeah, I mean, in the beginning, when I did my first stint, it was still daylight and the sun was out, and I got a lot of oversteer. But once the sun went down and the night came and it cooled down a little bit, the car got better and better. And when I went out, the car was really good, and I could do good lap times. Unfortunately, we are 2 laps down, but okay.
Well, it's funny because we have such a broad range of driver talent from different backgrounds, and someone in your own team just pointed out to me, Kenny Wallace from NASCAR, he said, these guys, I don't know what their names are, but they're super quick. So obviously everyone out there driving very well, leaving an impression.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there are many, many good drivers from the US, from overseas like me. And it's a great competition here. We have many, many good cars in my class, in the GT class. And it's a good battle, and very hard to win, or very hard to end up on the podium.
Well, a man who certainly knows what it's like to be in a GT car here. Chris, you're talking with the tall one.
Yeah, Justin, as we said, the Flying Lizard 45 car back on the racetrack, and Jörg Bergmeister waiting for his next turn behind the wheel. Jörg, you guys are about 19 laps down now because of that incident out on the racetrack, having to replace the splitter. What's the strategy at this point in time with so many hours in front of us?
Keep going, basically. I mean, we're going to keep pushing, and we'll see where we end up at the end. That's all we can do right now, I guess.
Does it change from winning the race to, hey, let's just try and get in the top 10 or the top 5?
No, not really. I mean, my goal is always to win, and we're going to keep pushing, and that's all we can do.
Well, over the years, we've seen that this team and these drivers never give up.
Jörg Bergmeister will now be dialing in rain, hail and a plague of frogs, because really something of biblical proportions has got to be their only chance. We're not going to wake up in the morning, are we, and find that they're in the lead, not from 19 laps back. Not unless the Hades freezes over first. Christophe Boucher leads outright. Justin Wilson, second place. Fellow British spotters David Donoghue in third in the 5 car. Ryan Briscoe in fourth as we go green. All the prototypes are in the queue. They have shuffled the order back. There they go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 all together. And the dark car, that is your leader with the yellow mirrors, Christophe Boucher. There's the 5 in the middle of it, and that is David Donoghue's car that was the leader before the yellow flag pit stops. And Boucher stayed out. He'd stopped a little earlier, a couple of laps earlier, and somehow, as we saw earlier, that ended up giving him the lead, which is against the run of play.
I think it obviously wasn't his car. We saw the front missing. The number had gone. I think it must have been the 95.
It was the team car, but with the mirrors missing, it was hard to tell.
Yeah, so the Peugeot's Le Mans winner, Christophe Boucher, and of course winner here in now it's 1995. We have to look back. The Jürgen Lassig Kramer Porsche Spider, they took that to victory, very famous victory here, and one of Porsche's 22 victories they've had since the Daytona 24 hours started running.
And of course Christophe Boucher, not the Peugeot that we're seeing now, the old Peugeot that John Todt ran, that Peugeot, that was the one he won with a 905 bis.
1993. Incidentally, that one of those cars from that era is going to be racing in the Group C GTP series this year. One's been bought by a French driver, and they're actually going to see them. Just hope it doesn't burst into flames like they used to do regularly.
Well, this is, especially with Miran, this is classic stuff on the bank. You look, trying to thread the eye of the needle through the GT class. We're on board with that car. It's one of our 2 Ganassi Racing operation machines. This is the 2 Dario Franchisi's car, trying to flash his way through traffic. And I can remember vividly watching the IMSA GTP cars carving up and down all the way down the back straight back in the early 80s at phenomenal speed, and they were the quickest things that God had ever made in sports car racing. And just watching Indy 500 winners struggling to keep the car under control in the traffic in the middle of the night. Quite frightening it must be to be in the GT cars.
Yeah.
There's our leader, 55. The 8 car is a lap behind, so not challenging him directly. The order is 55.6. That's Justin Wilson's car. That's kind of black sides with white lines over the side of the side pods. Yeah, that is it there in the shot. That is Justin Wilson in second place.
It's giving him a hard time.
5, 10 and 9. They are third, fourth and fifth.
Yeah, Justin is really starting to monster Christophe now, and I think we could have a lead change before long. 0.8 of a second last time they came across the line, and Christophe is not getting away, is he? Look, Justin's hanging onto his coattails.
Well, that's the battle just behind them. That's the 10 car chasing down the 5 car of David Donahue, Ryan Briscoe, and in fact that is a lapped car right behind Christophe Bouchou, but it's really giving the hurry up. There's Justin Wilson in the 6 car, that Michael Shank-Kurb Agajanian car, and again in US style, calling the cars by the car numbers because there are so many in the same team. Even if they've not all got the same livery, it's actually easier to spot them just using the number. So the tall Justin Wilson folded into this cockpit, and he is currently running in second place, although there is that lapped car between him and the race leader.
Yeah, Ryan Briscoe, of course, well known in Europe as the first ever winner of the Euro Formula 3 series. First year it ran in 2004. Then, of course, people like Lewis Hamilton moved in, took over, but Ryan will still have that as the inaugural winner. And he's running, as I say, fourth at the moment, chasing down David Donahue. Terry Borcella right behind them. Nick Johnson in the green chrome Lola, the only Lola in the race. You'll see from time to time. That's in fact, he's just dropped down the order, down to 7th.
He's just been passed by
Michael Valiante.
Yeah, the number 60 car. That's another of Michael Shank's cars. That's the one with the crown cask on it. The sort of burgundy is the colour I'm going with. Burgundy is that car. This is David Donahue, though. Car number 5. One of the 2 Action Express racing cars, the Riley chassis with the Porsche engine. Of course, the team that won last year's race, courtesy of Joao Barbosa, Terry Borcella, Ryan Diel and Mike Rockenfeller. And as Brumos Racing, 2 years ago, 09 victors, David Donahue, Antonio Garcia, Darren Law and Buddy Rice. So Donahue, the touchstone in the lineup of that car. The winner 2 years ago, Darren Law and Buddy Rice still with him. Bert Frizzell, Brad's youngest son, Brian Frizzell's youngest son, is the 4th member of that team.
Remember, this is the V8 and those Porsches. It's the Cayenne, which Lonzano brothers have done the work on. It's probably the least powerful engine in the field, but has proved to be the most reliable last year. Just gave him a great win.
In second right now. You're going to drive next. You got to be happy about that.
Yeah, we are really excited. Great driver lineup with Justin Wilson and AJ Allmendinger. This Michael Shank Racing Delaris pretty quick. We're going to keep working on it a little bit. Justin's been in the car here for 2 stints, so get ready to get in.
It was a really warm afternoon. It's really cooling off now. What are some of the drivers saying about the racetrack?
Yeah, the track's just got a lot of debris on it right now, so the pace isn't quite as fast as we thought it was going to be. So we might have to adjust the aero a little bit for that.
Well, you were sitting down, relaxing. I'm going to let you go over and do that and have a good stint when you get behind the wheel.
Well, Michael McDowell, illustrious teammates again, as I said, one of only three driver lineups here. AJ Allmendinger from NASCAR, Justin Wilson from Champ Cars. Christophe Bouchou leads, Wilson second, David Donahue, Ryan Briscoe, Terry Borcella ahead of Michael Valiante, Mimo Rojas, and the Krone Racing car dropping again. Bill Oberlin leading from Richard Leach and Patrick Pilet, 2 factory Porsche drivers now, second and third. Emil Asentato up to 4th position, or down to 4th position rather, we should say, as Pilet has made the TRG Black Swan Racing car, the 54 machine, the white white and green car that we saw earlier on, driven by Jeroen Bleekemolen. He's moved that up into 3rd place now.
Yeah, Neil Ascentano, of course, one of the GT winners for Mazda with Speed Source over the years. Speed Source really struggling though today. They're carrying extra weight, an extra 65 pounds. It was 70 pounds, but after their poor showing at the Raw before the Rolex, they were given a little break of 5 pounds, not that much. And it's still really not on the pace, are they? They're still struggling down there in the GT field.
No, but theirs has always been a long game, isn't it? It's never run at the front, it's just run long and fast and hard, and the balance in the last couple of years has generally tipped in their favour. It does seem a little as though it's swung a bit towards Porsche and certainly to the BMW, which Boris said, and now Bill Auberlen are holding out front. But you've got to look at Paul Dalla and Matt Plum as being weaker links in that driver chain. If you just had Billy and Boris in it, it would run that pace all day and all night until they both keeled over. But the other two have got to go in. Are we seeing yellow flags? Yes, we are. Yellow flags there at the bus stop. It's the 30 car here. This is the Racer's Edge Motorsport car. Jade Buford, Gary Jensen and Mark Jensen, Michael Marshall and Scott Rettich started that RX-8. It's one of the few that still seems to have all its panels in the positions that nature intended. Most of the others have hit things or been hit by things. And actually that's part of the Mazda story. There's hardly been a trouble-free car. We're only 2 hours in.
Yeah, it's extraordinary, isn't it? I just making the point a minute ago that Speed Source have had terrible problems, but the best Mazdas at the moment are in 6th and 7th places, right behind Rob Bell. Paul Miller Racing Porsche, Britain's Rob Bell, 2 times Le Mans GT champion, Le Mans Series GT champion, and Rob is now at the wheel. I think this is his first appearance at Daytona, isn't it?
I think you're right, and he's showing it with Tim Sugden, who of course knows plenty about the Porsches. We'll take a quick break, be back in a moment. Fire in the hole. This is the 7 car, the Starworks Motorsport Riley Ford. RJ Valentine leading or in that car. A Speed return from their commercial break, just a little behind us. And that car started by Jan Heylen. Highlights from the start of this Rolex 24 Daytona. Fierce battles for the lead of the overall and GT classes. Robin Liddell putting the Camaro up front before it suffered an engine problem. Bit of bumping and boring in the prototype class as we saw last year. And Mazda, the story of their race is that almost every one of them's had problems. First of 2 punctures already for Chip Ganassi's 0-2 car with stars Scott Dixon and Dario Franchitti. Gearbox change for the 01 car with Scott Pruitt, Memo Rojas, last year's champions in Grand Am, and Graham Rahal. And cars bringing dirt onto the circuit at all sorts of ludicrous angles. Lots of punctures in the opening 2 hours as well. Debris, cautions, carelessness, well, a combination of all of them. That is the 95. That was the 55 car of Christophe Bouchou, who currently leads the race. That the Flying Lizards car going off there in avoidance of a spinning Ferrari. Thought they'd only damaged the splitter. No, they tore the radiator out and broke bolts in the nose. They lost better part of half an hour on track. 77 car wild off for Doran Racing as well. That was the big impact for the 2 car, the Starworks team. Glyn Geddy. Both the Scottish drivers' cars have been in trouble. The Bennett Racing Ferrari in the opening half an hour, and the 2 car that he also shares is in trouble. Christophe Bouchou leads 8 lead changes and about 48 potential lead changes in what so far has been a fascinating race here. The Rolex 24 at Daytona living up to its billing as a great way of starting the season. On board with the SunTrust car, number 10, Ryan Briscoe in 4th place overall. Let's get down to the pits.
Pretty soon. And Ricky, during the off season, you went to Italy, took part in a program at a place called Formula Medicine that focuses on physical and mental preparation. Tell us a little bit about that week in Italy.
Yeah, Formula Medicine is really one of a kind for drivers. I went over there, me and Jordan, for 7 days. We did not only physical training, but mental and medical as well. I learned a lot about myself. They told me things I never even knew about myself, and I was like, oh, that's true. But no, I learned a lot. I learned mostly how to get the most out of myself.
Now, on the mental side, is this something that Max Angelelli has gone through too?
Yeah, he spends a lot of time there.
All right, last year you just had an incredible run the second half of the season. A lot of times were telling your dad that you needed to start batting cleanup in the 10 car. That didn't happen. Are we going to maybe see that this year?
I don't think so. I mean, I'm still learning a lot from Max, and we work well the way we're doing it, and I think we shouldn't mess with what's working, I guess.
Well, these two just have had an incredible relationship, and we kept giving them a hard time.
Dad, of course, being Wayne Taylor, the boss of the Sun Trust number 10 car team. Wayne Taylor and his son racing together here, and he sent Ricky away not to race with him for a couple of seasons, then brought him into the team, and Ricky certainly lived up to his dad's expectations and denied all the gainsayers who were saying, yeah, it's just nepotism. Ricky Taylor certainly showing he's got the pace to be in that car. Pass there from Jimmy Johnson on in fact, Jimmy Johnson already in 8th place on the Crane Racing car, just getting back in front of him again there. That's the battle for 8th and 9th. NASCAR champion Jimmy Johnson, NASCAR Sprint Cup Series career, well, 5 straight championships, and as you saw the stats there, pretty impressive. Started 8th. Currently 8th, they started in 10th place, just in front of that Lola of the Crane Racing organisation. And right behind, many laps behind them though, is the Flying Lizards car that started from pole position.
Yeah, that Lizards car really dropped down the order, 19 laps down now. Of course, they spent a lot of time in the garage behind the wall. Johannes van Overbeek on board that car at the moment, and he is running in 17th of 18 DP runners, so it's not been the pole position conversion into victory that they've been looking for. No chance now.
No, it really doesn't look like there's any opportunity. 19 laps. I mean, you know, if you're 2 laps behind at this stage and you're looking at 20 hours to make it back up, like Dario Franchitti's O2 team, all right, you could understand that maybe the others might have enough problems and you might have enough pace to bring that deficit back. 19. You can make that up on a GT car. You're not going to make it up on a prototype with any kind of clear race, and you can't rely on all the cars in front of you having problems.
Yeah, Ryan Briscoe then fastest man on the circuit just a moment ago. He's put in a 1:42.494, but no sooner did I say that than Christophe Bouchou puts in a 1:42.47. So they're upping the pace all the time here, and it's getting like Le Mans. It's becoming a sprint race from start to finish.
Well, it absolutely is. Yeah, I mean, certainly the days when cars didn't last, where no cars lasted, those are long gone. Now most cars will last, so you've just got to whale them until they either win or give up on you. There's no shortcuts here. You can't take it easy on the car and wait for the final couple of hours. This is not 400 miles getting position and then a 100-mile sprint. It's not the Daytona 500. It's the Rolex 24. 23 hours getting yourself in a position to win it, maybe.
He's doing a good job right now.
Now, Earnhardt Childress engines came on early in last summer. I think it was in May at Lime Rock. This is their first Daytona, Rolex 24 at Daytona. What did the guys at Earnhardt Childress learn about having to do this race?
Well, I mean, the first thing you have to do is you have to be patient. Not only the drivers, but us. No matter what happens to the car, you got to fix it, get it back out on the track. The big thing is to make sure the drivers don't drive off the track and don't run into somebody.
Well, guys, I think it was maybe having a little bit of a hard time here because it's really...
Yeah, kind of noisy down there at the Gainesco pit. Bob Stallings, the team boss there, and as he said, you know, the Earnhardt Chevrolet guys coming on board, and this happened in the American Le Mans series when they were using Ford engines. Jack Roush's operation, suddenly learning an awful lot about fuel mileage, fuel injection programming, things that didn't apply in NASCAR then. Of course, things that will apply in NASCAR this year. So for the Earnhardt Chevrolet crew, getting that, you know, extra knowledge and input from a very different discipline gives them all sorts of extra information to put into dealing with their NASCAR engine program and the fuel injection that will be part of the Sprint Cup racing this year. And for that car, John Fogerty, Alex Gurney, who started it, and Jimmy Johnson, all right, they had trouble and they're not right at the very sharp end, but 8th position at the moment. They are still on the lead lap, 13 seconds behind Mimo Rojas in the 01 car in front of them. So they've got in fact, no, 13 seconds behind a leader, so they're in that tight battle among the top 8.
Now we've just seen another change there. The Gainesco car just pushed down there. I think was it
Yeah, Justin Wilson just slipped to third, hasn't he?
Yeah,
David Donohue's made the pass on him for second place. Again, we didn't see that. The cameras were watching the Gainsco car.
Yeah, that's what happened. The whole field shuffled downwards. It's still Bouchou now from Donohue, from Justin Wilson. Ryan Briscoe in fourth place in that SunTrust Taylor car. Here it is, the replay of what was going on there.
That's the Lizard's car.
No,
that's Johannes van Overbeek going the long way around the outside of the Gainsco car. But again, still 19 laps down. Yep, yeah, let him go, let him go, let him go.
It's Jimmy Johnson who got blocked then, of course. So, in the Gainsco car. As you say, it doesn't matter. If you're being lapped by a car that's so many laps down, don't get in a fight.
Well, these guys are in trouble. The 44 car that led the GT class from the start with Craig Stanton. He had a really good battle for the lead. Now what are they looking at here? Is this a drive shaft problem, a gearbox problem? Not quite sure, but...
they've come in now to fifth place. Richard Leitz was at the wheel.
And had the lead, actually, of Moe in second place in the GT class behind the BMW momentarily.
Looks like a transaxle problem, perhaps.
Yeah, definitely. Of course, with a Porsche 911, the engine behind the transmission parallel with the wheels there, and the engine hangs out the back. Just the way that Ferdinand Porsche designed it. Well, wheels are going back on. No major deconstruction going on. Is that a linkage that they have replaced? I have a feeling that may be a linkage, a gear linkage. Yeah, look at it. Or a sway bar. That's or an anti-roll bar, as we would call it. That may be. I think that's what's. That looks like anti-roll bar, doesn't it? Language, Timothy. This is Big Brother. This is Davina. Please do not swear. You are live on TV across several continents,
and you could lose your job.
So a real combination here in the team, as you can hear, Magnus Racing Team with German Porsche engineers, American mechanics as well.
Yeah, this is one of the teams that Norbert Singer's overseeing this weekend. And
of course, the first thing every foreign mechanical driver learns is how to swear in English, because that's universal swearing. You can swear with any team if you're all swearing in English.
That's how you will get on, isn't it?
Yeah.
So this isn't good for Magnus. It's car rapidly dropping down the order.
A broken anti-roll bar mounting for them, and in the Chip Ganassi Target Racing team, it's dinner time. What, 6:48? That's kind of early supper, really, you know? Get the carbs on while you can.
This apparently is the biggest Ferris wheel in on the east coast of the United States, bigger than the one at Coney Island.
I was going to say in Daytona, possibly, or in Daytona Speedway.
It's bigger than the Coney Island one. They proudly tell us. The World Centre of Speed every year tells us the same thing.
Biggest one on the eastern seaboard. All right, I'll give you that.
100 laps just completed. 3 hours and 17 minutes into the race. Let's have a look back, see what they ran last year. It was a record last year. How many laps did they complete? It had a record number of cautions.
Oh, and trouble again. Now, who's that coming in without a nose? That's making it hard to recognise. Is that the 77 car, the Doran Racing Dallara Ford with Ross Kaiser, our Sunoco Daytona Challenge winner. Brian Frizzell, the lead driver there, son of Brad Frizzell, who was a sports car racer and who originated the Frisbee Can-Am car, the ultra-low car with, what was it, 10-inch wheels or something it raced on? It looked like a skateboard. In fact, that's what they called it, the skateboard. Brad Frizzell's two sons are both racing here. And it is it's the 77 car. It is Kevin Doran's car.
Yeah.
I'm not sure who's in there. Has Ross Kaiser had a drive in that? That's his the prize drive car. And they've had a couple of problems, so they're some way down in the Daytona prototype order. Well, Kevin Doran at the back in the red shirt on the perch, you can see there.
It is Ross Kaiser.
It's Ross Kaiser at the helm. Oh, that's really unfortunate for him.
Well, he's on a steep learning curve here, as you know.
No, Kevin Doran down on the right, extreme right of your picture in the black jacket with the headset. There's Kevin.
Of course, Kevin had a huge string of successes under his belt, especially Ferraris, you remember?
Yeah, 333 SP. He was the bunny, wasn't he? Absolutely.
Momo Ferrari. He then did the unforgivable. He put a Judd engine in the Ferrari and went and won again, you remember?
See, unforgivable until it won.
Until it won, yes.
Well, Ross Kaiser, 29-year-old, has been racing in sports car racing in the UK, but in radicals. So traditionally doing about a 25-30 minute stint in their 50-60 minute races. And part of the Sunoco Daytona Challenge, racers can apply to join the challenge, and they all earn points on how they finish. And it really came down between him and Jean-Eric Vergne, who won the British Formula 3 Championship title. Vergne had a bad weekend in the rain at Brands Hatch, and this prize drive at Daytona just slipped from his grasp. And Ross Kaiser found himself not only as the Radical Endurance champion, but also the winner of the 2011 prize drive here in the Rolex 24.
And now finding himself behind the wall.
Well, you know, it's a whole learning experience for him, and part of it is what happens when things go wrong. Of course, how you deal with that is as much a part of a driver's armory as anything else, and the team's, how you deal with the problems. 44 car led in the first hour. It's in pit road with a sway bar or problem, or an anti-roll bar problem. And the 77 car back behind the wall again, like the Crone, not the Crone Racing car, the Flying Lizards car. A seemingly minor off, has popped the nose off, but clearly done something underneath and probably to the mountings.
So let's just look, we just mentioned briefly, didn't we, the record laps last year, 755 laps, and at the moment we've completed 102, so a long way to go. Bobby Rahal
in the centre of the air, winning in the Camel GT era with Brian Redman on the right-hand side of the shot. Name the third driver for your bonus points, Mark Cole. Now, that wasn't the one in the T-shirt, Miss Camel GT. You don't get any points for naming it. Bobby Rahal, 81. Dear Lord, that was some while ago. And, of course, it is his son. That was the reason we were focusing on Bobby, who is trying to emulate Dad and claim a win here. Graham Rahal in the 01 car. But we're looking here at the battle that is changing hands position here. The number 9 car of Terry Borchella and the number 10 car, which is now... where's that gone from the DP rankings?
Right, 10 car has slipped down.
Yeah, it's suddenly become invisible.
There it is. It's actually...
In fact, the transponder stopped working. It's now done no laps, no times, none at all.
So it's not there.
No, but
incidentally, the answer to your photo quiz, Bob Garrettson.
Oh,
he was the third driver.
Good.
Yeah,
very good.
I did just look it up.
Oh, well done, well done.
Of course, Bob came to Le Mans with the Whittington brothers, if you remember.
Yeah.
And, we saw him there. So anyway, that was a long time ago, 1981, as you say. Here is Bobby talking. Can we hear him? No.
I'm not sure if we can or not. If we do hear him, we'll shut up. If you're hearing him, you carry on.
Yeah. Just shout it
Terry Borchella now shown as 4th. This is the battle for 5th, though. As you can see quite plainly, the 10 car is in front. And this is the 01 car of Memo Rojas, who with Scott Pruitt won last year's Grand Am title. They have Graham Rahal and Joey Hand sharing that car.
Yeah, so we got the transponder back now. So
okay, so Ryan Briscoe is back in 3rd.
Yeah.
Terry Borchella in 4th. Michael Vallanti in 5th. Mimo Rojas in 6th place, right behind Vallanti's car.
Just funny, we talked to Ricky Taylor a little bit earlier, and his younger brother Jordan, of course, 19 years old, who's racing for Outer House Camaro this weekend. Just reminded me. I mean, I remember spending time by their pool with them in Johannesburg when Wayne and Shelley were still half living in South Africa and half in Altamonte Springs, where they live now. And it's just funny seeing these little kids by the pool, and suddenly here they are front running in America's biggest race.
I spent 5 years working with Justin Bell in the pit lane. First time I saw Justin in the pit lane, he was 3. So yeah, exactly the same. There's our race leader, Christophe Bouchou, at the helm of the Level 5 Motorsports Riley BMW, still in command here in Daytona. Rejoining our battle for the lead, you're looking at the car number 5, David Donoghue, the red, white and blue machine in 2nd place. 4 seconds off the tail of race leader Christophe Bouchou. On board now with car number 10. This is the Sun Trust car that lies in 3rd place, driven by Aussie Ryan Briscoe. And in 4th place is Terry Borchella in car number 9, although the transponder shows that all the drivers are on board that car. The timing and scoring is having a little bit of a problem with itself, but there is the battle. 10 ahead of 9 by, well, a 9/11 length. What's that? A little bit more than that now. 2.2 meters or something like that. 4.2 meters.
Yeah.
Ryan Briscoe and Terry Borchella just yards apart on the track.
I've got a feeling this race is coming to SunTrust. It's just I've just got a gut feeling about it tonight. Ryan Briscoe and Mexico. They've done such a good job here today, early in the race. Max Angelelli keeping that car up front all the time. Ricky Taylor's done a good job. Wayne Taylor told us before the race he probably won't drive, and he's there as a reserve driver, but he's happy to let those three do it. And don't be surprised if this time tomorrow, well, a bit earlier than this time tomorrow, they could still be up in the right at the front of the field, that car. Let's see.
Yeah, they've got a very good chance. 20 hours to go, of course, as we never tire of tediously saying at Le Mans, long way still to go. Yes. And a lot of it is going to be in darkness as well. It's dark now. It'll still be dark for a very, very, very long time here in Central Florida. Well, there is car number 60, Michael Valianti, having his first stint at the wheel of that car, and they're well placed as well. 5th position for Michael Shank Racing. It's Michael Shank's top car at the moment, but in fact all of their cars have had a run at or very close to the front. The 60 car was started by Osvaldo Negri Jr., John Pugh, Michael Valianti, and the Belgian Mark Hussens also on the driving crew. Right behind them, last year's Grand Am champ Memo Rojas shares with Scott Pruitt, and of course Pruitt has been a double winner here, 07 and 08.
Yeah, and again before that in 94. He was as well. Yeah,
back to back. Yeah, well, that was in Scott's first career. He's sort of had 3 different sports car racing careers, hasn't he? And you know, 2 IndyCar careers as well. It's been perhaps the bizarrest of the bizarrest of racing careers I can think of. One car has retired from DP so far, a car that was being driven by Alex Popov when it crashed, and Ernesto Vizo, the IndyCar driving Venezuelan, never got the chance to drive it, nor did Scott Glyn Geddy. So the steed of one of our British drivers, I'm afraid, is out of the race. Steed of another Scott, Robin Liddell, which was going strongly early on, the Camaro GTR, not out of the race yet, but certainly way out of contention. 20 laps off the GT lead.
Scott Pruitt's win in 94, by the way. Remember, that was Nissan 300 ZX. Paul Gentilotz's car. Paul is still racing, of course, the Jaguar program. Butch Leitzinger was in that car as well, and Steve Millen from New Zealand. And that came 2 years after the Japanese came here in their Group C Nissan. Masahiro Hashimi, Kazuyoshi Hoshino, Toshio Suzuki, and Sweden's Anders Olofsson, and they set the all-time record that year in 92, 762 laps, fastest ever race. But Group C cars, of course, have not ever been allowed back since then. Americans took umbrage at that. So
well, they were monsters, weren't they? And they were certainly more powerful and worked their fuel better than the GTP cars that were racing here in the States. Very close relations, of course, Group C and GTP, but not on a parallel. And you know, you shut the stable door. You at least allow one horse to bolt before you shut the door. That's the American way.
I was in the middle of all that. I was in Nissan's Motorsport press office at that time, and I came over to Daytona for that, and got a lot of flack for that afterwards from the Americans.
Well, I blame the press officer, because that should have been a lot of gorgeous, good PR for Nissan. You know, Toyota, they would have done it differently. Anyway, this is the car again that led in the GT class earlier on, or so it was second, I think, as high as second, with your own Blake Molan driving. He shares it with Brett Curtis, Tim Pappas, Patrick Pilet, and James Sofronis. And the 54 car is currently second with Pilet at the helm, so that'll be turning some very fast laps. It is 151.4 last time round.
Again, it's TRG is a team who knows how to win here at Daytona. They've been winning classes. They have won outright, as we've mentioned earlier, and good drivers. I mean, to have Pilet and Blake Molan in your team, that's top draw. And
I wouldn't want to downplay Kevin Buckler's influence and his team and his engineers, but their basic game plan is get a great car from Porsche, don't mess with it. That's it. You know, that's what it is. And get some drivers who can keep it out of the pit lane. And, you know, really, it's in its essence, sports car racing is very simple. Stay on the track, stay out of the pits. If you get a great car from Porsche, I mean, these are turnkey race winners, they really are, then don't fiddle with it. Porsche have spent 50 years and a hell of a lot of money more than you're going to invest getting it right. Don't argue with them. don't pay them if you don't want it, the Porsche. If you want the Porsche, keep it the way they built it.
But the way again to win here is exactly the same as Le Mans. The least time spent in the pits, the more chance you have of winning. Here's Rob Bell.
Yeah, Rob Bell, another of our 19 Brits, and he's in the marquee Jet Porsche. That is currently lying in 4th position in the GT class. Car number 48, run by Paul Miller Racing. He shares with Tim Sugden, Bryce Miller, who started it, and Brian Sellers, another pretty decent peddler of GT Porsches over the years.
Yeah, it's game. We're looking now at Porsche starting to stack up in the top 4. They've got Bill Arbelin in the Turner BMW ahead of them, but behind 3 Porsches, and the race is starting to come to them, even though we're only 3.5 hours into it. I mean, we're not even 8th distance yet.
You can see one of their rivals, Patrick Dempsey's yellow 40 car, the Dempsey Mazda RX-8, and one of his 2 Dempsey Racing Mazda RX-8s, and they've been up and down the order compared to the Porsches because they're on a different fuel schedule all the time. They use their fuel differently, they stop at different intervals, so they'll go up, then they'll come down, then they'll go back up when all the Porsches stop. And how that works out at the end of the 24 hours, whether you're on a ladder or a snake, well, I don't know how that works, and nobody else, I think, does yet either.
And that car is 10 seconds behind Rob Bell. That's the distance. In fact, the looking at last laps completed,
yeah, Rob Bell's 10 seconds away from 3rd, and Dave Lacey behind him, 10 seconds behind him. So they can see each other quite clearly on the... Whether they know each other is who they're seeing is another thing entirely.
Another smack for a prototype, trying to get around the
traffic.
outside.
And again, that's Ryan DL and Co.'s number 8 car, one of the 2 Starworks Motorsport cars. We saw the other one on fire earlier with RJ Valentine. Don't know whether that's okay or not. And limbering up in the garage area, Memo Rojas getting ready to take the 0-1 car over. Yeah, baby. Rolex 24 at Daytona. Everybody's already looking like it might be bedtime. So again, another thing, you know, Marshall Pruitt on speed.com writes some great articles. He's been tweeting all week a series of differences between Daytona 24, Le Mans 24. One he came up with I really liked. He said, at Daytona, everybody leaves the track and goes to their hotel. At Le Mans, the track is their hotel.
They've introduced a brand new car to the world, the 458 Italia. And being involved in that process, they've taken the decision to build a Grand Am specification version of that car.
When you have a brand like Ferrari come and compete in Grand Am, it puts a big open for business sign for European and other manufacturers that come and race in the States.
The 458 is their new model, just introduced mid-summer last year worldwide, and it is purpose-built by Ferrari to be pretty much, you could send it over here in a box, glue some numbers on the door, and go race in the Rolex 24 or any other race as the car comes out of the box, ready to go.
Competition Director Mark Ruffoff talking about the Mo open door approach here at Grand Am. We talked a little bit about that earlier, in the 458 will probably be the first fruits of that labour, trying to introduce new manufacturers. And of course, the US is where people want to race because it's the world's biggest car market.
Yeah, they're going to have to build it to Grand Am rigs, and they fall somewhere between sort of Cup specification GT3, not quite as high as GT3. Nonetheless, I mean, it's a beautiful car, this 458. What Mark didn't add there, he was asked a question just after that about other makes, and he then mentioned the Audi R8 Le Mans and the Mercedes Gullwing SLS, both of which he said they will welcome, but they're going to have to run in that same Grand Am spec. He said, because then they can race in Europe, but then you think, well, where can they race in Europe to Grand Am?
Well, it'll be changing weight limits, changing brakes, changing air restrictors. It's not going to be massively different wings or body configurations. It's going to be essentially a slight variation. In the same way that if you go from American Le Mans Series or VLN to Le Mans Series, there are slightly different rules for the same BMW M3, slightly different aero package or whatever it happens to be. And it'll be the same with the Mercedes, the same with the Ferrari, the same with the Audi, same with anybody that wants to bring a car. You want to bring a 370Z, they'll welcome you with open arms, but they'll make sure that you don't trample on the rest of their loyal competitors.
I mean, for one thing, for instance, one major rule difference between here and Europe is you have to have steel brakes here.
Yeah.
But I think eventually Mark's dream, and I can see where he's coming from, is to be able to race against the BLM people is, that's getting very, very close, isn't it?
Well, I mean, what all sports car fans want to see is really strong fields at all the big races. You know, the Nürburgring 24, the Le Mans 24, the Rolex 24, Sebring, Petit Le Mans, you know, all the big...
Britcar 24.
Yeah, Britcar 24. Yep. You know, what you want ideally is the same set of regs that work across all of them. And actually, if everybody sat down and said, look, we want all these different cars to work together, no one series is going to want a Porsche to be much more powerful than anything else, or a Ferrari to be much more powerful than anything else. It's in everyone's common interest. Like with a computer, every USB key works the same way in every USB slot. That's what you want. Every CD player plays in every CD, plays every CD ever made. That's what you want. That's what we want in sports car racing, and I don't see that the organisers are much different.
Ferrari is they've introduced a brand new car to the world, the 458 Italia, and being involved in that process, they've taken the decision to build a Grand Am specification version of that car.
When you have a brand like Ferrari come and compete in Grand Am, it puts a big open for business sign for European and other manufacturers that come and race in the States.
The 458 is their new model, just introduced mid-summer last year worldwide, and it is purpose-built by Ferrari to be pretty much, you could send it over here in a box, glue some numbers on the door, and go race in the Rolex 24 or any other race as the car comes out of the box, ready to go.